The sound of her own key turning in the front door lock felt like a knife twisting in her chest. Amelia Washington stood frozen in her hallway, listening to the sounds coming from upstairs. Her husband of 8 years was in their bedroom, their sacred space, with another woman. The moans and laughter that drifted down the stairs made her stomach turn inside out. She had planned this moment for 3 weeks, faking a business trip to Seattle just to catch him in the act. But nothing could have prepared her for the sickening reality of hearing another woman in her bed, wearing what she could only imagine were her clothes, using her bathroom, living her life. The hardest part was not screaming. Not running up those stairs and confronting them both right then and there. Instead, Amelia forced herself to back out of the house silently, her hands shaking as she pulled out her phone to record everything. The time stamp would be crucial later. 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon when he thought she was 3,000 miles away presenting marketing proposals to tech companies. 3 weeks ago, she had been planning their vacation to Jamaica for their anniversary. 3 weeks ago, she still believed in their marriage, still trusted the man who kissed her goodbye every morning and told her he loved her every night. 3 weeks ago, she was still naive enough to think that finding strange receipts in his pocket meant he was planning a surprise for her birthday. The truth had hit her like a truck when she found the text messages. Not hidden, not deleted, just sitting there in his phone while he showered. Messages from someone named Rebecca, talking about missing him, about wanting to be held, about counting down the days until Amelia's next business trip. The messages went back months. Maybe even a year. While she had been working extra hours to save money for their dream house, he had been building a whole other life with someone else. That night, she had lain next to him pretending nothing had changed. She watched him sleep and wondered how long he had been lying to her face. How many times had he come home from being with Rebecca and kissed her hello? How many times had he made love to her while thinking about someone else? The questions made her feel sick, but they also made her angry. Really, truly angry for the first time in her adult life. The fake business trip had been her idea. She had spent 2 weeks planning it perfectly, booking real flights that she never took, making hotel reservations she never used, creating an entire schedule of fake meetings and presentations. She had even gone so far as to have her assistant send him her fake itinerary. Every detail had to be perfect because she needed him to feel completely safe, completely confident that he had 4 days to play house with his girlfriend. Now, standing in her driveway with tears running down her face, Amelia realized that catching them had been the easy part. The hard part was going to be everything that came next. But as she listened to the sounds of betrayal coming from her own bedroom window, something cold and determined settled in her chest. He wanted to play games. Fine. She was about to show him what a real game looked like. She drove to her sister Lauren's house across town, her hands still shaking on the steering wheel. Lauren took one look at her face and knew immediately that the worst had happened. They had planned for this possibility, though neither of them had really wanted to believe it would come to this. "He's there with her right now," Amelia said, collapsing onto Lauren's couch. "In our bed. In our house. Like I don't even exist." Lauren handed her a tissue and sat down beside her. "Did you get the evidence you need?" Amelia nodded, pulling out her phone to show the photos she had managed to take through the bedroom window. Rebecca was a pretty blonde woman, maybe 5 years younger than Amelia, wearing one of Amelia's own robes. The sight of it made her feel sick all over again. "Good," Lauren said firmly. "Because now we destroy him." The plan they had discussed was simple in theory but complicated in execution. Amelia was going to take everything from him, legally and systematically. His reputation, his job, his friends, his family's respect, and most of his money. She was going to make sure that everyone in their social circle knew exactly what kind of man he really was. And she was going to do it all while he still thought she was clueless and 3,000 miles away. "I keep thinking about all the times he looked me in the eye and lied," Amelia said, wiping her tears away. "All the times he said he was working late or going out with the guys. How many of those times was he with her? Lauren reached over and squeezed her hand. That's exactly the kind of thinking that's going to fuel what comes next. You loved him completely, and he threw it away. Now you're going to make sure he remembers that for the rest of his life. Amelia looked at her phone again, at the photos that proved her husband's betrayal, and felt something shift inside her. The hurt was still there, sharp and constant, but alongside it was something else. Something that felt like power. For 8 years, she had put his needs first, had supported his dreams, had been the perfect wife. Now it was time to be something else entirely. I'm not taking him back, she said out loud, and the words felt like a promise. No matter what he says, no matter how he begs, I'm never taking him back. Good, Lauren said. Because forgiveness is overrated, but revenge? Revenge lasts forever. 2 months earlier, Amelia's biggest concern had been whether to get highlights or try a completely new hair color for spring. She had been married to Thomas Washington for 8 years, and their life together felt comfortable, predictable, and secure. He worked as a financial advisor at a prestigious firm downtown, she ran marketing campaigns for a growing tech company, and together they had built what everyone called a perfect marriage. The first sign that something was wrong came on a Thursday night in March. Thomas had been on his phone more than usual during dinner, smiling at the screen in a way that made something uncomfortable twist in Amelia's stomach. When she asked who he was texting, he said it was just work stuff and put the phone away. But the smile lingered on his face in a way that didn't match his explanation. Since when do you smile at work emails? She had asked, trying to keep her tone light. It's just Johnson being funny about the Peterson account, Thomas had replied, but he wouldn't meet her eyes when he said it. That night, Amelia lay awake thinking about that smile. In 8 years of marriage, she had never seen Thomas smile at his work emails. He complained about them, stressed about them, sometimes ignored them, but he never smiled at them like they were the best part of his day. The next morning, she tried to shake off the feeling. Marriage required trust, and she had always trusted Thomas completely. But throughout the day, little details kept bothering her. The way he had started taking his phone into the bathroom with him. The new cologne he had bought without mentioning it. The fact that he had started going to the gym 3 times a week when he used to complain about exercise. The breaking point came 2 weeks later when she was doing laundry and found a receipt in his pants pocket from a restaurant she had never heard of. The date on the receipt was from the previous Tuesday, when he had told her he was working late. The receipt was for 2 meals, 2 glasses of wine, and 1 dessert to share. When she asked him about it that night, Thomas had looked genuinely surprised. "Oh, that," he said, taking the receipt from her hands. "Johnson and I grabbed dinner after we finished the Peterson presentation. You know how he gets when we land a big client." But Amelia knew Johnson. She had met him dozens of times at company parties and work events. Johnson was a beer and burger kind of guy who made fun of people who ordered wine with dinner. Johnson would never split a chocolate soufflé with anyone, especially not Thomas. That night, while Thomas was in the shower, Amelia did something she had never done in 8 years of marriage. She looked through his phone. Her hands were shaking as she scrolled through his messages, expecting to find nothing and feel guilty for snooping. Instead, she found Rebecca. The messages went back 6 months. 6 months of, "Good morning beautiful," and, "Can't wait to see you tonight," and, "Wish you were here instead of her." 6 months of planning dates and sharing inside jokes and talking about a future together. The most recent message, sent just an hour before, said, "She's doing laundry. Perfect wife material, right? Can't wait to get out of here and come see you." Amelia had to put the phone down and run to the bathroom to throw up. When she came back, Thomas was standing in the bedroom in his towel, looking at her with concern. "You okay, baby? You look pale." She stared at his face, this face she had loved for so long, and wondered how he could look so genuinely worried about her when he had been calling her, to another woman just minutes before. How could he touch her shoulder with such apparent care when those same hands had been typing messages about wanting to leave her? Just tired, she managed to say. Long day. That night, she lay next to him listening to him breathe and feeling like she was sleeping next to a stranger. Every breath he took felt like another lie. Every time he moved in his sleep and accidentally touched her, she had to fight not to recoil. The next morning, Thomas kissed her goodbye like he had every morning for 8 years, told her he loved her like he always did, and walked out the door to go to work. Amelia waited exactly 5 minutes before she called in sick and spent the entire day in bed, crying until she had no tears left. When Lauren came over that evening, she found Amelia still in her pajamas, surrounded by tissues and empty ice cream containers. What happened? Lauren asked, immediately alarmed. Amelia told her everything. About the phone, about the messages, about the 6 months of lies and the way Thomas had looked at her with such fake concern the night before. Lauren listened without interrupting, her face growing harder with every detail. What are you going to do? Lauren asked when Amelia finished. I don't know, Amelia admitted. Part of me wants to confront him right now. Just get it over with. But part of me wants to make sure I have everything I need first. What do you mean? Amelia sat up straighter, wiping her eyes. I mean, if I'm going to blow up my marriage, I want to make sure I do it right. I want evidence. I want to know exactly how long this has been going on and exactly how far it's gone. And I want to make sure that when it's over, everyone knows the truth about what kind of man he really is. Lauren smiled for the first time since she had arrived. Now you're talking. What do you need me to do? Help me plan, Amelia said. Help me make sure I don't miss anything. Because I'm only going to get one chance to do this right, and I want it to count. They spent the next 3 hours making lists and plans, talking through every possible scenario and every potential consequence. By the time Lauren left, Amelia felt calmer than she had all day. She had a purpose now, a goal that went beyond just crying about what Thomas had done to her. When Thomas came home that night, she was in the kitchen making his favorite dinner. She smiled at him and asked about his day and acted like the perfect wife she had always been. But inside, she was already gone. Inside, she was planning his destruction. The hardest part about planning revenge was pretending everything was normal. For 3 weeks, Amelia had to wake up next to Thomas every morning, kiss him goodbye, and act like she still believed in their marriage. She had to listen to him talk about his day, respond to his questions about hers, and make plans for their future together, all while knowing that he was living a double life. The fake business trip to Seattle had been Lauren's idea. You need to catch them in the act, she had said. Photos, evidence, something that leaves no room for him to lie his way out of it. Amelia had been nervous about the deception at first, but once she started planning it, she found that she was good at lying. Really good. The same attention to detail that made her excellent at her job made her excellent at creating a fake business trip that would fool her cheating husband. She started by talking about the Seattle trip casually, mentioning it in passing during dinner conversations a month before it was supposed to happen. She complained about having to travel, worried out loud about the presentations she would have to give, and asked Thomas to remind her to pack her good suit. Every detail was designed to make the trip feel real and inevitable. 2 weeks before the fake trip, she booked real flights and a real hotel room. She made real dinner reservations at Seattle restaurants and created a detailed itinerary of meetings and presentations. She even went so far as to have her assistant send Thomas her travel schedule, complete with flight numbers and hotel information. The night before she was supposed to leave, Amelia packed a real suitcase and put it by the front door. She set her alarm for 5 a.m. and talked about how nervous she was about the early flight. Thomas had seemed genuinely sympathetic, holding her close and telling her that she was going to do great. "I'll miss you," he had said, kissing her forehead. "4 days is too long." Amelia had almost laughed at the irony. He was going to miss her so much that he probably already had plans with Rebecca for every single night she was supposed to be gone. The next morning, Thomas drove her to the airport himself. He carried her suitcase to the check-in counter, kissed her goodbye, and told her to call him when she landed. Amelia went through security, found her gate, and waited until she was sure Thomas had left the airport. Then she went to the bathroom, changed clothes, put on a baseball cap and sunglasses, and took a taxi to a hotel 10 minutes from their house. The hotel room became her base of operations. She had brought her laptop, a camera with a long-range lens, and a notebook where she planned to document everything she discovered. The first day, she just watched the house from a distance, noting when Thomas left for work and when he came home. Everything seemed normal, which almost made her hope that maybe she had been wrong about everything. But on the second day, Rebecca showed up. Amelia watched from her rental car as a blonde woman in a red dress walked up to her front door like she belonged there. She had a key. A key to Amelia's house. The sight of another woman using a key to enter her home made Amelia feel like she might pass out. For the next 6 hours, Amelia sat in her car documenting everything. She took photos of Rebecca's car in her driveway, photos of the two of them visible through the living room window, photos of them cooking dinner together in her kitchen. The domestic intimacy of it was almost worse than if she had just caught them in bed. This wasn't just an affair. This was a relationship. That night, Thomas called her hotel room in Seattle right on schedule. "How did the presentation go?" he asked, and his voice sounded so normal, so caring. "Really well," Amelia lied, staring at the photos she had taken of him and Rebecca kissing in her kitchen. "I think we got the contract." "That's great, baby. I'm so proud of you." Amelia had to cover the phone so he wouldn't hear her crying. How could he sound so proud of her while he was cheating on her? How could he tell her he loved her while another woman was probably in their bed? The third day was when she decided to get closer to the house. She parked 2 blocks away and walked through the neighbor's yard to get a better view of the bedroom window. What she saw there almost broke her completely. Rebecca was wearing Amelia's robe. Her favorite silk robe that Thomas had given her for their anniversary 2 years ago. She was sitting at Amelia's vanity, using Amelia's makeup, getting ready for what was clearly a date with Amelia's husband. The casual way she moved through the space, the familiarity with which she opened drawers and used Amelia's things, made it clear that this wasn't the first time she had been there. That afternoon, Amelia followed them to the same restaurant where Thomas had taken her on their first date 8 years ago. She watched from a corner booth as Thomas held Rebecca's hand across the table and fed her bites of dessert. She took photos of them kissing over champagne, of Thomas sliding a ring onto Rebecca's finger that looked suspiciously like it might be an engagement ring. When she got back to the hotel that night, Amelia spread all the photos out on the bed and stared at them for hours. 3 days of evidence. 3 days of proof that her marriage had been over for months, maybe longer, and she had been the only one who didn't know it. But looking at those photos, Amelia didn't just feel hurt anymore. She felt angry. Really, truly angry. Thomas hadn't just cheated on her. He had made her into a fool. He had let her plan their anniversary vacation while he was planning a future with someone else. He had let her worry about their finances while he was spending money on another woman. He had let her love him completely while he was already gone. The 4th day was when she decided to go back to the house one more time. She needed to see them together in her bedroom, needed that final piece of evidence that would make it impossible for Thomas to talk his way out of what he had done. She needed proof that would justify what she was about to do to him. When she heard them upstairs in her bedroom, Amelia knew that her old life was officially over. The woman who had trusted Thomas completely, who had put his needs before her own, who had believed in their perfect marriage, was gone. In her place was someone harder, someone smarter, someone who was about to make Thomas Washington regret every lie he had ever told. As she drove away from the house for the last time as Thomas's wife, Amelia felt something she hadn't felt in months. She felt powerful. Tomorrow, she was going to start destroying the man who had destroyed her, and she was going to enjoy every minute of it. Amelia's first move was financial, and it was surgical. While Thomas thought she was still in Seattle, she spent the morning at their bank with copies of all the photos she had taken. The bank manager, Mrs. Patterson, had known them both for years and was visibly shocked when Amelia explained the situation. "I need to protect myself," Amelia said, sliding the photos across the desk. "I don't know how much money he's been spending on her or what kind of debt he might be hiding." Mrs. Patterson nodded grimly as she looked through the evidence. "Smart thinking. Let me show you what we can do." By noon, Amelia had transferred half of their joint savings into a new account in her name only, had removed Thomas as an authorized user on her personal credit cards, and had opened a safety deposit box where she stored copies of all her evidence. She also discovered something that made her stomach drop. Thomas had taken out a $50,000 personal loan 3 months ago without telling her. A loan that was secured against their house. "Where did that money go?" Amelia asked, staring at the bank statement. Mrs. Patterson pulled up more records on her computer. "Looks like it was transferred to a different account. Not one of yours." Amelia felt sick. $50,000 of their money that was supposed to go toward their dream house, had been spent on his girlfriend. The ring she had seen him give Rebecca suddenly made more sense. He had bought it with their money. That afternoon, Amelia met with a divorce attorney named Patricia Mills who had been recommended by Lauren. Patricia was a small woman with sharp eyes who specialized in cases involving adultery and financial deception. "You've done good work gathering this evidence," Patricia said, reviewing the photos and bank records. "But if you really want to make him pay, we need to think bigger." "What do you mean?" Patricia leaned back in her chair. "Your husband works in finance, right? Trust and reputation are everything in that business. What do you think happens to his career when his clients find out he's been lying to his wife for months and stealing money from their joint accounts to support his mistress?" Amelia felt a cold smile spread across her face. "They stop trusting him with their money." "Exactly. And what happens to his social life when all your mutual friends find out he's been bringing another woman to your house, letting her wear your clothes, giving her jewelry bought with your money?" "They choose sides," Amelia said. "And they choose mine. Now you're getting it. But timing is everything. We need to coordinate this so that everything hits him at once. One day he thinks he's gotten away with everything, and the next day his whole world falls apart." They spent the next 2 hours planning what Patricia called the disclosure strategy. First would come the legal papers, divorce filing, asset protection, restraining order if necessary. Then would come the professional consequences, carefully placed phone calls to his boss and biggest clients. Finally would come the social destruction, strategic revelations to their friend group and family members. The key, Patricia explained, is to make sure he can't control the narrative. By the time he realizes what's happening, everyone will already know the truth. That evening, Amelia was supposed to call Thomas from Seattle to check in. Instead, she drove to the office of a private investigator Patricia had recommended. She wanted to know everything about Rebecca, her full name, where she worked, whether she knew Thomas was married, how long the affair had been going on. The investigator, a former police detective named Robert Kim, looked through Amelia's photos with professional interest. "This woman knows he's married," Robert said immediately. "Look at this photo of her in your kitchen. She's comfortable there. She knows whose house she's in, and she doesn't care." "How can you tell?" Robert pointed to a photo of Rebecca cooking at Amelia's stove. "See how she's arranged the spice rack. She's put the salt and pepper in different places. That's territorial behavior. She's not just visiting your house, she's claiming it." Amelia felt that familiar twist of nausea. "What else can you find out about her?" "Everything," Robert said simply. "Give me 48 hours. When Amelia finally called Thomas that night, she was back in her hotel room, surrounded by legal documents and investigation reports. She had spent the day building a case against him that would destroy him professionally, financially, and socially. "Hey baby, Thomas said when he answered. How was day 3? Productive, Amelia said, and she wasn't lying. Really productive. I miss you, he said, and the words made her angry all over again. How could he miss her when Rebecca had probably just left their house? I miss you too, she lied. Just one more day. I can't wait to have you home, Thomas said. I've got a surprise planned for tomorrow night. Amelia almost laughed. His surprise was probably going to be taking her to dinner at the same restaurant where he had proposed to Rebecca 3 days earlier. Or maybe he was planning to give her jewelry that he had bought with money stolen from their joint account. I can't wait to see what it is, she said. After she hung up, Amelia sat on the hotel bed and looked at everything she had accomplished in one day. Tomorrow, she would fly back from her fake business trip and pretend to be surprised by whatever pathetic surprise Thomas had planned. But the day after that, his real surprise would begin. She picked up her phone and sent a text to Lauren, Phase 1 complete. Tomorrow we start Phase 2. Lauren's response came immediately. Can't wait to watch him burn. Amelia smiled as she turned off the lights. Neither could she. Amelia's flight from Seattle landed right on schedule, even though she had never left the city. She took a taxi from the airport to their house, dragging her suitcase and practicing the tired but happy expression of a wife returning from a successful business trip. Thomas was waiting for her in the driveway, and for a moment, seeing his familiar smile almost made her forget everything she had discovered. For just a second, she wanted to run into his arms and pretend that the last week had been a nightmare. Instead, she let him hug her and kiss her and tell her how much he had missed her, all while thinking about the photos on her phone of him doing the same things to Rebecca in this exact spot just 2 days ago. How was Seattle? He asked, carrying her suitcase into the house. Great, Amelia said, looking around her living room and remembering how comfortable Rebecca had looked cooking in her kitchen. Really great. That night, Thomas made dinner and told her about his week. He was a good liar, she had to give him that. He talked about working late, about going out for drinks with the guys, about missing her and being bored without her. Every word was smooth and believable, and if she hadn't seen the truth with her own eyes, she would have believed every lie. I have something for you, Thomas said over dessert, pulling out a small jewelry box. Amelia's heart stopped. For a wild moment, she thought he was about to give her the same ring she had seen him give Rebecca. But instead, it was a pair of diamond earrings. They're beautiful, she said, forcing herself to smile. What's the occasion? No occasion, Thomas said, leaning over to kiss her. I just love you. The earrings were beautiful, and they were expensive. Amelia wondered if he had bought them with the money from the secret loan, or if Rebecca had helped him pick them out. The thought made her feel sick, but she made herself put them on and model them for him. That night, they made love for what Amelia knew would be the last time. She closed her eyes and tried to remember when it had been real, when his touch had meant something, when his whispered, I love you, hadn't been a lie. But all she could think about was Rebecca wearing her robe and sleeping in her bed. The next morning, Thomas left for work like always, kissing her goodbye and telling her he would be home for dinner. Amelia waited exactly 10 minutes before she called Patricia Mills. Today's the day, she said. Are you ready for this? Patricia asked. Once we start, there's no going back. I'm ready. The first call Patricia made was to Thomas's boss, Jonathan Richards. Patricia had prepared her approach carefully, presenting herself as a concerned attorney who had discovered some troubling financial irregularities that might affect the firm's reputation. I'm calling as a courtesy, Patricia explained to Mr. Richards. One of your employees has been involved in some personal financial deception that could reflect poorly on the firm if it becomes public. Patricia didn't accuse Thomas of anything illegal. She just presented the facts, the secret loan, the money transferred to accounts he hadn't disclosed to his wife, the evidence of an extramarital affair that had been going on during work hours. She sent copies of the bank records and a few carefully selected photos. The second call was to Thomas's biggest client, a wealthy family whose retirement portfolio he managed. Again, Patricia was careful to frame her concerns in terms of professional ethics rather than personal judgment. "I thought you should know that your financial advisor has been making some questionable personal financial decisions," she said. "It might be worth reviewing your accounts to make sure everything is in order." By noon, Amelia's phone was ringing. It was Thomas, and he sounded panicked. "Amelia, something weird is happening at work," he said. "Mr. Richards wants to see me in his office, and the Henderson family just called to schedule an emergency meeting about their portfolio." "That does sound weird," Amelia said, sitting in her kitchen and feeling a cold satisfaction spreading through her chest. "I'm sure it's nothing." "Yeah, probably," Thomas said, but he didn't sound convinced. "I'll call you later." That afternoon, Amelia had lunch with three of her closest friends, Jennifer, Sarah, and Michelle. These were women who had been to her wedding, who had celebrated anniversaries with her and Thomas, who thought of them as the perfect couple. "I need to tell you something," Amelia said once they had ordered. "Thomas has been cheating on me." The silence that followed was deafening. Jennifer was the first to speak. "Are you sure?" she asked gently. Amelia pulled out her phone and showed them a few of the photos. Not the most intimate ones, but enough to make the situation clear. She watched their faces change from disbelief to shock to anger. "Oh honey," Sarah said, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "How long has this been going on?" "At least 6 months," Amelia said. "Maybe longer." "What are you going to do?" Michelle asked. "I'm divorcing him," Amelia said simply. "And I want everyone to know why." By the time lunch was over, Amelia knew that the news would spread through their social circle like wildfire. Jennifer, Sarah, and Michelle were all connected to dozens of other couples in their group. By evening, everyone would know that Thomas Washington was a cheater and a liar. That night, Thomas came home looking like he had been hit by a truck. His meeting with Mr. Richards had not gone well, and the Henderson family had indeed moved their account to a different firm. "I don't understand what's happening," he said, slumping onto the couch. "It's like someone is spreading rumors about me." Amelia looked at him with fake sympathy. "What kind of rumors?" "I don't know," Thomas said. "Something about financial irregularities and personal conduct. Mr. Richards wouldn't give me details, but he said they were going to launch an internal investigation." "I'm sure it will all work out," Amelia said. "You haven't done anything wrong, right?" Thomas looked at her sharply, and for a moment, she thought he might suspect something. But then his phone buzzed with a text message, and his face went pale as he read it. "What is it?" Amelia asked. "My mom," Thomas said weakly. "She wants to know if it's true that I'm having an affair." Amelia felt that cold satisfaction again. "Your mom? How would she have heard something like that?" "I don't know," Thomas said, and he looked genuinely lost. "This is insane. Someone is trying to destroy my life." Amelia almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then she remembered Rebecca wearing her robe and cooking in her kitchen, and the sympathy disappeared. "Maybe you should call your mom back," she suggested. "Reassure her that it's all just rumors." But as Thomas made his phone call, Amelia could tell from his side of the conversation that his mother didn't believe his denials. Neither did his sister, who called 20 minutes later. Neither did his best friend from college, who called after that. By bedtime, Thomas had received calls from family members, friends, and colleagues, all wanting to know if the rumors were true. Each conversation left him looking more defeated and confused. "I don't understand how this is happening," he said as they got ready for bed. "It's like someone has it out for me." "Someone does," Amelia thought to herself as she brushed her teeth. "And she's just getting started." The next morning brought a flood of text messages and phone calls that made Thomas's phone buzz constantly from 6 a.m. onward. Amelia watched him read message after message, his face growing paler with each one. What's happening? She asked, though she already knew. Someone posted something on social media, Thomas said, his voice barely above a whisper. About me and, about an affair. Amelia felt her heart race. This wasn't part of her plan. She hadn't posted anything on social media yet. What kind of post? Thomas showed her his phone. Someone had created a fake Facebook account and posted a detailed story about seeing Thomas with another woman, complete with dates, locations, and descriptions. The post had been shared dozens of times overnight and tagged mutual friends of theirs. Who would do this? Thomas asked, and he looked genuinely devastated. Amelia stared at the post, trying to figure out who might have taken her plan into their own hands. Then she realized, it had to be one of her friends from lunch yesterday. Someone who had been so outraged by Thomas's betrayal that they had decided to take action. I don't know, she said, fighting to keep her voice steady. But Thomas, is it true? The question hung in the air between them. This was the moment when he could have told her the truth, could have confessed everything and begged for forgiveness. Instead, Thomas looked her straight in the eye and lied. Of course it's not true, he said. You know me better than that. Someone is obviously trying to sabotage me. The fact that he could still lie to her, even now when his world was falling apart, made something hard and cold settle in Amelia's chest. He was going to keep lying until the very end. Maybe we should call the police, she suggested. If someone is spreading false information about you, that might be harassment. Thomas shook his head. That would just make it worse. Draw more attention to it. All day, the social media post continued to spread. By afternoon, it had been shared over 100 times, and people were commenting with their own stories about seeing Thomas with a blonde woman around town. Some of the details were so specific that Amelia realized their affair had been much more public than she had thought. Jennifer called around lunchtime. Amelia, have you seen what's happening online? Thomas showed me, Amelia said carefully. It's terrible. Honey, Jennifer said gently, is there something you need to tell me? Because after what you showed us yesterday. Amelia took a deep breath. I can't talk about it over the phone. Can you come over? An hour later, Jennifer, Sarah, and Michelle were sitting in Amelia's living room, and she was telling them everything. About the fake business trip, about catching Thomas and Rebecca in her house, about the evidence she had gathered. You've been planning this for weeks? Sarah asked, looking impressed despite everything. I had to, Amelia said. I needed to make sure I had everything I needed before I confronted him. What about the social media post? Michelle asked. Did you do that? Amelia shook her head. That wasn't me. I think it might have been someone who heard about it from one of you. Jennifer looked guilty. I might have mentioned it to my sister last night. She's pretty active on Facebook. It doesn't matter who did it, Amelia said. What matters is that now everyone knows the truth. That evening, Thomas came home early from work, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His phone had been ringing non-stop, and he had finally turned it off. We need to talk, he said, sitting down heavily on the couch. Amelia felt her pulse quicken. About what? About what's happening to me. To us. Thomas ran his hands through his hair. Someone is trying to destroy my life, and I don't know why. Maybe, Amelia said carefully, someone thinks you deserve it. Thomas looked at her sharply. What's that supposed to mean? I mean maybe someone has proof that the rumors are true. The silence stretched between them. Thomas stared at her, and she could see him trying to figure out how much she knew. Amelia, he said finally, you have to believe me. I would never cheat on you. I love you. It was the perfect opportunity for her to confront him with everything she knew. But Amelia wasn't ready yet. She wanted him to suffer a little longer, wanted him to feel the fear and uncertainty that she had felt for months. I believe you, she lied. But other people don't seem to. That night, Thomas's sister called. Amelia could hear both sides of the conversation from the kitchen. "Tommy, just tell me the truth," his sister was saying. "Is there another woman?" "No," Thomas said firmly. "There's no other woman. Someone is making this up." "Then why are there photos?" his sister asked. Amelia felt her breath catch. Photos? She hadn't released any photos publicly. "What photos?" Thomas asked, his voice cracking. "Check your email," his sister said. "Someone sent them to Mom." Amelia watched Thomas open his laptop, his hands shaking. When he opened his email and saw the photos, all the color drained from his face. Someone had sent his family the pictures of him and Rebecca at the restaurant, holding hands and kissing over dinner. "Oh God," Thomas whispered. "So it is true," his sister said, and Amelia could hear the disappointment in her voice even from across the room. "Lisa, I can explain," Thomas started. "Don't," his sister cut him off. "Just don't. Mom is heartbroken. Dad won't even talk about it. And your wife, does Amelia know?" Thomas looked across the room at Amelia, who was pretending to be busy loading the dishwasher. "No," he said quietly. "She doesn't know." After he hung up, Thomas sat in silence for a long time. Finally, he looked at Amelia and said, "We need to go away. Take a vacation. Get away from all this." "Run away, you mean?" Amelia asked. "Not run away. Just give it time to blow over." Amelia almost laughed. He still thought this was something that would blow over, something he could wait out. He had no idea that this was just the beginning. "I can't take time off work right now," she said. "I just got back from Seattle." "Then I'll go alone," Thomas said. "Just for a few days. Let things calm down." "If that's what you think is best," Amelia said. What Thomas didn't know was that Patricia Mills had already filed the divorce papers. They would be served to him tomorrow morning at his office, in front of all his colleagues. By the time he got back from his little vacation, he would discover that his wife had filed for divorce, frozen their joint accounts, and was seeking half of everything he owned. That night, Amelia lay in bed next to Thomas and listened to him toss and turn. Every few minutes, his phone would buzz with another message or email, and she could feel him tense up beside her. "Amelia?" he whispered around midnight. "Yeah. Do you still love me?" The question caught her off guard. For a moment, she thought about telling him the truth. That she had loved him completely until the moment she found those text messages. That she had loved him enough to forgive almost anything except the months of lies. That she might have even loved him enough to work through an affair if he had been honest with her from the beginning. Instead, she said, "Of course I do." "Good," Thomas said, and she felt him relax beside her. "Because I love you too. More than anything." It was probably the first true thing he had said to her in months, and it broke her heart all over again. But it was too late for truth now. Tomorrow, his real nightmare would begin. The divorce papers were served to Thomas at 9:30 a.m. on a Wednesday, right in the middle of the weekly staff meeting at his financial firm. Amelia knew this because Patricia Mills had arranged for the process server to arrive at exactly that time, when Thomas would be surrounded by all his colleagues. Amelia was at work when her phone rang. It was Thomas, and he was screaming. "What the hell is this?" he shouted into the phone. "Divorce papers? Are you insane?" "I'm at work, Thomas," Amelia said calmly. "Can we talk about this tonight?" "No, we cannot talk about this tonight. We're talking about this right now. Why are you doing this to me?" Amelia looked around her office and realized that her coworkers could probably hear Thomas yelling through the phone. She had never heard him lose control like this before. "Because I know about Rebecca," she said quietly. The silence on the other end of the phone was deafening. For a full 30 seconds, Thomas didn't say anything. "I don't know what you're talking about," he finally said, but his voice had lost all its fight. "Yes, you do," Amelia said. "And so does everyone else now." "Amelia, please," Thomas said, and now he sounded like he was crying. "Can we just talk about this? I can explain everything." "There's nothing to explain," Amelia said. "I have photos, Thomas. I have bank records. I have 6 months of text messages. I know everything." Another long silence. Then Thomas said, "How long have you known?" "Long enough," Amelia said. "Long enough to protect myself." That afternoon, Patricia Mills called with an update. "He's hired Robert Chen as his attorney. Chen called me an hour ago wanting to negotiate." "What kind of negotiation?" "He's offering you 60% of the assets if you agree to keep the details of the affair private. No public statements, no social media posts, sealed court records." Amelia laughed. "Tell him no." "You sure? 60% is a generous offer." "I don't want his money," Amelia said. "I want everyone to know what kind of man he is." That evening, Thomas didn't come home. Instead, he sent her a text message saying he was staying at a hotel and asking if they could meet somewhere neutral to talk. Amelia agreed to meet him at a coffee shop downtown. Thomas looked terrible. His usually perfect hair was messy, his shirt was wrinkled, and he had dark circles under his eyes. When he saw her walk in, he stood up like he was going to hug her, but something in her expression made him sit back down. "Thank you for coming," he said. Amelia sat across from him and waited. "I know you're angry," Thomas began. "And you have every right to be. But please, can we try to work this out? I love you, Amelia. I've always loved you." "You love me?" Amelia asked. "Is that why you took out a $50,000 loan against our house to buy jewelry for your girlfriend?" Thomas's face went pale. "How did you?" "I know about the loan, Thomas. I know about the restaurant receipts. I know that Rebecca has been in our house, sleeping in our bed, wearing my clothes. I know that you proposed to her with a ring you bought with our money." "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," Thomas said desperately. It got complicated." "Complicated?" Amelia felt her temper rising. "You were married, Thomas. How is that complicated?" "I was going to end it," he said. "I was going to break up with her and tell you everything." "When?" "After you married her." Thomas looked confused. "Married her? We never talked about marriage." Amelia pulled out her phone and showed him the photo of him putting a ring on Rebecca's finger at the restaurant. "That's not an engagement ring," Thomas said quickly. It was just a gift. A gift that cost $50,000. "It wasn't 50,000, Thomas protested. "The ring was maybe 10. The rest of the money was for." He stopped talking and looked down at his hands. "For what, Thomas?" "For an apartment," he said quietly. "I was going to rent us an apartment. So we didn't have to, so she didn't have to come to the house anymore." Amelia stared at him. "You were going to rent an apartment? With our money? While you were still married to me?" "I know how it sounds," Thomas said. "But I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted." "Well, now you do," Amelia said, standing up. "You want Rebecca. And you can have her. But you can't have me too." "Amelia, please," Thomas said, grabbing her arm. "Don't do this. We can go to counseling. We can work this out." Amelia looked down at his hand on her arm, and he immediately let go. "There's nothing to work out," she said. "You made your choice 6 months ago. Now I'm making mine." As she walked away, Thomas called after her. "I'll fight the divorce. I'll contest everything." Amelia turned back to him. Go ahead. Contest it. Drag it out. Make it public. I have nothing to hide anymore, Thomas. Do you? The next morning, Patricia called with news that made Amelia smile. His attorney called again, Patricia said. Now they're offering you 75% of the assets. Still trying to buy my silence. Looks like it. But here's the interesting part, they're also asking for a restraining order to prevent you from contacting his employer or his clients. Too late for that, Amelia said. That's what I told them. I also mentioned that we might be interested in pursuing charges for financial fraud, since he took out that loan without your knowledge. What did they say? They're requesting an emergency meeting. I think Thomas is starting to realize how much trouble he's in. That afternoon, Amelia got a call from an unknown number. When she answered, it was Rebecca. I think we need to talk, Rebecca said. Amelia felt her heart start racing. I don't think we do. Please, Rebecca said. Just 5 minutes. There are things you don't know. Against her better judgment, Amelia agreed to meet Rebecca at a park near her office. When she arrived, Rebecca was sitting on a bench, looking almost as tired as Thomas had the night before. Thank you for coming, Rebecca said when Amelia sat down beside her. What do you want? I want you to know that I never meant for this to happen, Rebecca said. When I met Thomas, he told me he was separated. He told me you were getting divorced. Amelia stared at her. He told you what? He said you had been living apart for months. He said the divorce was almost final. Rebecca looked at Amelia with tears in her eyes. I would never have gotten involved with a married man. I'm not that kind of person. Amelia felt the world tilt around her. How long did you believe that? Until 3 days ago, Rebecca said. When all this started happening. When I realized that you didn't know about me, that you thought your marriage was fine. You've been with him for 6 months, Amelia said. You never questioned why you never met any of his friends. Why he only came to your place or brought you to our house when I was supposed to be traveling. Rebecca wiped her eyes. He said you were vindictive. He said you were trying to take everything from him in the divorce, so he had to be careful about being seen with me. Amelia almost felt sorry for her. Almost. So what now? Amelia asked. Now I'm done, Rebecca said. I broke up with him yesterday. I can't be with someone who lied to both of us. As Rebecca walked away, Amelia realized that Thomas had lost everything. His wife, his girlfriend, his job, his reputation, and soon, half his money. And the worst part was, he had done it all to himself. 2 weeks after the divorce papers were served, Amelia was sitting in Patricia Mill's office reviewing the final settlement agreement when her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The message was short, check Channel 7 News at 6 p.m. What's this about? Patricia asked, reading over Amelia's shoulder. I have no idea, Amelia said, but something in her stomach told her this was about Thomas. At exactly 6 p.m., Amelia was in her hotel room. She had moved out of the house the week before watching the local news. The lead story made her nearly drop her phone. A local financial advisor is under investigation for misappropriating client funds, the news anchor announced. Thomas Washington of Premier Financial Services allegedly used money from client accounts to fund personal expenses, including an extramarital affair. The story went on to explain that the investigation had begun after several clients complained about irregularities in their accounts. The news showed footage of Thomas leaving the Premier Financial building with a box of his personal belongings, his face covered by a newspaper. Amelia's phone rang immediately. It was Patricia. Did you see the news? Patricia asked. I'm watching it now. What does this mean? It means Thomas's problems just got a lot bigger than a divorce. If they can prove he stole client money, he's looking at criminal charges. The next morning, the story was front-page news in the local paper. The headline read, "Financial Advisor Accused of Fraud TO Fund Affair." The article included details about Thomas's relationship with Rebecca, the secret loan against his house, and the investigation into his professional conduct. Amelia's phone didn't stop ringing all day. Reporters wanted interviews, friends wanted updates, and family members wanted to know if she was okay. She ignored most of the calls, but she did answer when Thomas's mother called. "Amelia, honey," Mrs. Washington said, her voice shaky. "I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to apologize for him," Amelia said gently. She had always liked Thomas's mother. "I raised him better than this," Mrs. Washington said, starting to cry. "I don't understand how he became this person." "Neither do I," Amelia admitted. "Are you going to be okay? Financially, I mean." Amelia almost smiled. Even in the middle of her son's scandal, Mrs. Washington was worried about her daughter-in-law's well-being. "I'll be fine," Amelia said. "I have a good job, and the divorce settlement will help. If you need anything," Mrs. Washington said, "anything at all, you call me. You're still family to me." After she hung up, Amelia realized that she felt lighter than she had in months. The worst was over. Thomas's lies had finally caught up with him, and everyone could see him for what he really was. That afternoon, she got a call from Robert Kim, the private investigator. "You might want to sit down for this," Robert said. "What did you find?" "Rebecca wasn't his first affair," Robert said. "There was another woman about 2 years ago. Someone named Lisa Chen who worked at his firm." Amelia felt the room spinning. 2 years ago. The affair lasted about 4 months. She quit her job and moved to another city when it ended. I tracked her down, and she's willing to testify if needed." "Testify to what?" "That Thomas told her the same thing he told Rebecca. That you were separated, that the divorce was almost final. He's been using the same lie for years." Amelia hung up the phone and sat in silence for a long time. 2 affairs. Maybe more. How long had their marriage been a lie? That evening, she was having dinner with Lauren when her phone rang. It was Thomas, calling from jail. "Will you accept a collect call from Thomas Washington?" the automated voice asked. Amelia looked at Lauren, who shook her head vigorously. "Yes," Amelia said. "Amelia," Thomas's voice came through the phone, weak and desperate. "Thank God. I need help. I need bail money." "I'm not giving you money, Thomas. Please," he begged. "I'm innocent. This is all a misunderstanding. The money I took was just a loan. I was going to pay it back." "With what money?" Amelia asked. "You spent everything on your girlfriends." "Girlfriend," Thomas corrected. "Just Rebecca. And it wasn't that much money." "What about Lisa Chen?" Amelia asked. The silence on the other end of the phone told her everything she needed to know. "How did you?" Thomas started. "How many others were there, Thomas? How many women did you tell that we were separated?" "It's not what you think," Thomas said desperately. "Those relationships didn't mean anything. You're the one I love. You're the one I married. And I'm the one who's divorcing you," Amelia said. "Don't call me again." She hung up and turned off her phone. "How do you feel?" Lauren asked. Amelia thought about it. For months, she had been planning Thomas's destruction, focusing on revenge and justice. But now that it was over, she didn't feel triumphant or satisfied. She just felt empty. "Free," she said finally. "I feel free." The next morning, the newspaper had another story about Thomas. The investigation had revealed that he had taken money from at least 6 different client accounts over the past 2 years, totaling more than $200,000. Most of the money had been spent on his affair's expensive dinners, jewelry, hotel rooms, and the apartment he had rented for Rebecca. Patricia called with an update on the divorce proceedings. His attorney wants to expedite the settlement, Patricia said. They're afraid that if this drags out, there won't be any assets left to divide. What do you mean? Thomas is going to have to pay restitution to his clients. Plus legal fees, plus fines if he's convicted. By the time it's all over, he might not have anything left. Amelia realized that her revenge had been more complete than she had ever imagined. Thomas wasn't just losing his marriage and his reputation. He was losing everything. What happens to him now? Amelia asked. If he's convicted, he's looking at 5 to 10 years in prison, Patricia said. Plus, he'll never work in finance again. His professional licenses will be revoked. That afternoon, Amelia drove past the house that had been their home for 5 years. There was a "for sale" sign in the front yard and a notice from the bank taped to the front door. Thomas had defaulted on the mortgage, and the house was going into foreclosure. As she sat in her car looking at the house where she had planned to raise children and grow old with Thomas, Amelia felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. Everything they had built together was gone, but maybe that was for the best. It had all been built on lies anyway. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry for everything. I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to know that I really did love you." Amelia read the message twice, then deleted it without responding. Some apologies came too late to matter. 3 months after Thomas's arrest, Amelia was finally starting to feel like herself again. She had moved into a beautiful apartment downtown, thrown herself into her work, and was slowly rebuilding her social life. The divorce had been finalized, giving her half of what little assets remained after Thomas's legal troubles. That's when the letters started. The first one arrived at her office, forwarded from her old address. It was 5 pages long, handwritten on prison stationery, and it broke her heart all over again. "My dearest Amelia," it began. "I know I have no right to write to you, but I can't stop thinking about us, about what we had, about what I threw away. I lie awake every night remembering the way you used to laugh at my jokes, the way you felt in my arms, the way you believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself." The letter went on to detail every moment of their relationship that Thomas claimed to treasure. Their first date, their wedding day, lazy Sunday mornings in bed, vacations they had taken together. He wrote about how sorry he was, how the affairs had meant nothing, how he would spend the rest of his life making it up to her if she would just give him another chance. "I understand why you hate me," the letter concluded. "I understand why you can never trust me again. But please don't let my mistakes destroy the love we had. That love was real, Amelia. It was the most real thing in my life, and I was too stupid to protect it." Amelia read the letter twice, then threw it in the trash. But that night, she found herself thinking about their wedding day, about how happy they had been, about how sure she had been that they would grow old together. The second letter arrived a week later. This one was shorter but more desperate. "I heard that you're seeing someone new," Thomas wrote. "Please tell me it's not true. Please tell me there's still a chance for us. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm begging you anyway. I'll do anything, Amelia. I'll go to therapy, I'll change everything about myself, I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I can be the man you fell in love with." Amelia wasn't seeing anyone new, but she didn't bother to correct him. Instead, she called Patricia Mills. "Can you make him stop writing to me?" she asked. "I can try," Patricia said. "But prison mail is hard to control. He has a right to send letters. What if I don't want to receive them? You can refuse delivery, but he can keep sending them." The third letter arrived 2 weeks later, and this one scared her. "I know you're angry," Thomas wrote. "I know you want to punish me. But haven't I been punished enough? I've lost everything, Amelia. My job, my reputation, my freedom, my family. The other inmates know what I'm in for, and they treat me like dirt. I get beaten up regularly. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I think about ending it all every day. The letter went on to describe in graphic detail how miserable Thomas's life had become. He talked about the violence in prison, about how isolated he was, about how the guards treated him with contempt. He talked about how the other prisoners called him names and how he had been hospitalized twice after fights. "The only thing that keeps me going is the hope that someday you might forgive me," the letter concluded. "If you take that away from me, I don't know what I'll do." This letter, Amelia didn't throw away. Instead, she showed it to Lauren. "He's manipulating you," Lauren said immediately. "This is emotional blackmail." "But what if he really does hurt himself?" Amelia asked. "That's not your responsibility," Lauren said firmly. "You didn't put him in prison. His own choices did." But that night, Amelia couldn't stop thinking about Thomas alone in a prison cell, beaten and broken and thinking about suicide. Despite everything he had done to her, she didn't want him to die. The fourth letter was the worst one yet. "I had a visit from my lawyer today," Thomas wrote. "He says there's no chance of getting my sentence reduced. 5 years minimum, probably more. 5 years without seeing your face, without hearing your laugh, without holding you. I don't think I can survive that long without you." The letter went on to detail a plan Thomas claimed to have made for killing himself. He described how he would do it, when he would do it, and why it would be better for everyone if he was dead. "I know this isn't fair to you," he wrote. "I know I have no right to ask you for anything. But please, just visit me once. Just let me see you one more time, let me explain everything, let me tell you how sorry I am in person. After that, I'll leave you alone forever. I promise." Amelia stared at the letter for a long time, her hands shaking. Then she called the prison. "I need to report a suicide threat," she told the officer who answered. "Who is threatening suicide?" "Thomas Washington. Inmate number." She read the number from his letter. "What makes you think he's suicidal?" Amelia read portions of the letter over the phone. The officer took notes and promised to have someone check on Thomas immediately. "Should I be concerned about this?" Amelia asked. "Probably not," the officer said. "Inmates threaten suicide all the time to get attention or special treatment. But we take all threats seriously." That night, Amelia got a call from Thomas himself. "Why did you call the prison?" he demanded. "They put me on suicide watch because of you." "Because you said you were going to kill yourself," Amelia said. "I wasn't really going to do it," Thomas said. "I just wanted you to know how I felt." "Don't ever do that again," Amelia said, her voice shaking with anger. "Don't you dare threaten to hurt yourself to manipulate me." "I'm not manipulating you," Thomas protested. "I'm just trying to make you understand how much I miss you." "Stop," Amelia said. "Just stop. We're divorced, Thomas. It's over." "It doesn't have to be over," Thomas said desperately. "People get remarried all the time. We could start fresh when I get out." "I will never remarry you," Amelia said clearly. "I will never get back together with you. I will never forgive you. What we had is dead, and you killed it." The silence on the other end of the phone stretched for nearly a minute. "You don't mean that," Thomas finally said. "I mean every word of it." "But I love you," Thomas said, and he sounded like he was crying. "You should have thought of that before you cheated on me," Amelia said. "Don't call me again. Don't write to me again. Leave me alone." She hung up the phone and immediately called her phone company to block his number. The next day, she went to Patricia Mill's office to explore her legal options for stopping the letters. "There's something called a no-contact order," Patricia explained. "It's usually used in domestic violence cases, but we might be able to get one based on harassment." "What would that do?" "It would make it illegal for him to contact you in any way. If he violates it, his prison sentence could be extended. Amelia thought about Thomas alone in his cell, beaten and desperate and clinging to the hope that she might take him back someday. "Do it," she said. A week later, Patricia called with good news. "The no-contact order has been approved," she said. "Thomas has been officially notified. If he tries to contact you again, he'll face additional criminal charges." That night, Amelia slept better than she had in months. Finally, she was truly free of Thomas Washington. He could spend his prison sentence thinking about what he had lost, but he could no longer make it her problem. The last letter she ever received from him arrived the day before the no-contact order took effect. It was just one sentence: "I'll never stop loving you, and I'll never stop hoping you'll change your mind." Amelia read it once, then tore it up and threw it away. Some people never learned when to let go. But that was Thomas's problem now, not hers. 1 year after Thomas's arrest, Amelia was promoted to senior marketing director at her company. The raise that came with the promotion allowed her to move into an even nicer apartment, one with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city skyline. On Sunday mornings, she would sit by those windows with her coffee and think about how different her life had become. She had lost weight without trying, her skin was clearer, and she smiled more often. Friends commented on how much happier she looked, how much more confident she seemed. Amelia realized that she had been holding her breath for years without knowing it, and now she could finally breathe again. The divorce had been finalized 8 months ago. Thomas's assets had been largely consumed by legal fees and restitution payments to his clients, but Amelia had received her half of what remained. More importantly, she had kept her own savings and retirement accounts, which Thomas had never had access to. She was financially secure and professionally successful, building a life that belonged entirely to her. Dating had started slowly. At first, the thought of trusting another man seemed impossible. But gradually, with Lauren's encouragement and her therapist's support, Amelia had begun to put herself out there again. She had gone on a few dates that led nowhere, which was fine with her. She was in no hurry to fall in love again. Then she met Marcus Rodriguez at a work conference in Chicago. He was a software engineer from Denver, funny and kind and refreshingly honest. When he asked for her number, she almost said no out of habit. But something about his smile made her change her mind. Their first date was coffee on a Saturday afternoon. Marcus told her up front that he had been divorced for 2 years, that his ex-wife had left him for her personal trainer, and that he was still learning how to trust again. His honesty was both refreshing and terrifying. "I should probably tell you," Amelia said over her second cup of coffee, "that my divorce was complicated." "Complicated how?" Marcus asked. Amelia gave him the short version. The affair, the financial deception, the criminal charges. She waited for Marcus to make an excuse and leave, but instead he reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "I'm sorry that happened to you," he said simply. "Some people don't know how to appreciate what they have." 6 months later, Marcus accepted a job transfer to her city. They had been taking things slowly, talking on the phone every night and visiting each other on weekends. When he suggested moving closer, Amelia felt ready for the next step. "Are you sure about this?" she asked during one of their video calls. "Long-distance relationships are hard, but moving cities is a big deal." "I'm sure about you," Marcus said. "And I'm sure I want to see where this goes." On the 2-year anniversary of the day she had caught Thomas cheating, Amelia was having dinner with Marcus at a small Italian restaurant downtown. Halfway through their meal, he reached across the table and took her hand. "I have something to tell you," he said, and for a moment, Amelia's heart stopped. The last time a man had said those words to her, her world had fallen apart. "What is it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "I love you," Marcus said simply. "I know we agreed to take things slow, and I'm not asking you to say it back. I just needed you to know." Amelia stared at him, this good man who had been patient with her fears and gentle with her heart. "I love you too," she said, and realized she meant it completely. That night, they talked until dawn about their future together. Marcus wanted to know if she ever thought about getting married again, if she wanted children, if she could see herself building a life with someone new. Amelia surprised herself by saying yes to all of it. "What about the past?" Marcus asked. "What if Thomas gets out of prison and tries to contact you?" "He can't," Amelia said. "There's a no-contact order. And even if there wasn't, it wouldn't matter. That part of my life is over." 3 months later, Lauren called with news that made Amelia smile. "Thomas tried to appeal his sentence," Lauren said. "The appeal was denied. He's going to serve the full 5 years." "Good," Amelia said, and she meant it. "What about Rebecca?" "Last I heard, she moved back to her hometown in Ohio. She's engaged to some guy she went to high school with." Amelia felt nothing but relief. Rebecca had been as much a victim of Thomas's lies as she had been, but Amelia was glad to know she was moving on with her life too. 6 months later, Marcus proposed during a weekend trip to the mountains. He had planned it perfectly, waiting until they were alone on a hiking trail with a view of the entire valley spread out below them. "I know this might seem fast," he said, getting down on one knee. "But I also know that when you find the right person, you don't want to waste time." The ring was beautiful but simple, nothing like the elaborate diamond Thomas had given her 8 years ago. This ring felt real, honest, like the man offering it to her. "Yes," Amelia said, before Marcus had even finished asking the question. "Yes, yes, yes." Their wedding was small and perfect. Amelia wore a simple white dress and carried wildflowers instead of roses. Marcus's family flew in from Denver, and all of Amelia's friends were there. Even Thomas's mother came, giving Amelia a tearful hug and telling her how happy she was that Amelia had found love again. "You deserve this," Mrs. Washington whispered in her ear. "You deserve all the happiness in the world." During the reception, Amelia found herself thinking about the woman she had been 3 years ago. That woman had been so naive, so trusting, so willing to believe that love was enough to protect her from betrayal. This woman was smarter, stronger, more careful with her heart. But she was also more grateful for real love when she found it. "What are you thinking about?" Marcus asked, joining her on the balcony where she had stepped out for some air. "Just how different everything is now," Amelia said. 3 years ago, I thought my life was perfect. But it was all built on lies. And now?" Amelia looked at her new husband, this man who had never lied to her about anything, who had been patient with her fears and understanding about her past. "Now I know what real love actually looks like," she said. 2 years later, Amelia was sitting in a lawyer's office, but this time for a very different reason. She and Marcus were adopting a baby girl, and they needed to sign the final paperwork. "Have you chosen a name?" the lawyer asked. "Hope," Amelia said, looking down at the sleeping infant in her arms. "Her name is Hope." As they walked out of the lawyer's office as a family of 3, Amelia's phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. "Thomas got out early for good behavior. Thought you should know." Amelia read the message and felt absolutely nothing. No fear, no anger, no sadness. Thomas Washington was a chapter in her life that had ended long ago. She had hope in her arms, Marcus by her side, and a future full of possibilities ahead of her. "Everything okay?" Marcus asked, noticing her looking at her phone. "Everything's perfect," Amelia said, and she meant it completely. That night, as she was putting Hope down for the night, Amelia thought about the letter Thomas had written to her in prison, the one where he said he would never stop hoping she would change her mind. She wondered if he still believed that, if he was somewhere out there still thinking about the life they could have had together. But it didn't matter what Thomas hoped for anymore. Amelia had built a new life, a better life, a life full of real love and genuine happiness. She had learned that revenge wasn't about destroying someone else, it was about refusing to let their actions destroy you. Thomas had lost everything because of his own choices. His marriage, his career, his freedom, his reputation. Meanwhile, Amelia had gained everything she had ever really wanted, a partner who cherished her, a child to love, a career she was proud of, and the knowledge that she was strong enough to survive anything. Some people might call that justice. Amelia called it healing. As she turned off the lights and headed to bed where Marcus was waiting for her, Amelia realized that she hadn't thought about Thomas in months. He had become irrelevant to her happiness, which was the best revenge of all. The woman who had once planned his destruction was gone, replaced by someone who had learned that the best way to win was simply to build a better life. And she had won completely. Thomas Washington would spend the rest of his life regretting what he had lost. But Amelia Washington Rodriguez would spend the rest of hers grateful for what she had found. In the end, that made all the difference.